Hi folks, it's Florida Man here. This video is Talleyrand, and what follows is 1902, the German perspective. How are you feeling about the game?
I'm feeling okay, but sometimes that's a bad thing. You think to yourself, my position is relatively secure. I have some prospects here, and that's the moment when they get you. But I'm feeling okay.
I don't know, sounds just like nerves. In fall, it looks like you protected Munich, went for Holland, got Denmark, let Russia into Sweden. Did Russia have to say anything special to you to get into Sweden?
Russia's first message to me was no pleasantries really, just sort of like, let me into Sweden or I'll side with England against you. But if you let me into Sweden, we could work together. And I said, well, that doesn't seem very nice, but I'll think about it. And ultimately, I guess it worked, but not so much because I was threatened into it, but because I was thinking that there was going to be some sort of sea lion action against England. Even though I hadn't fully committed to that, that was sort of like, I think this is where we're going. Better to have that Russian support in the north.
When I play as Germany, the sea lion is one of my very favorite things to do. So
right, me too. I mean, I feel like Germany's biggest threat naturally is England. Not always, but a lot of the times in the mid-game, if you last that long, you end up with being swarmed by English fleets. And what are you going to do? So getting rid of that problem early on appeals to me as well.
As France or Germany, I always prefer to ally with the other rather than England.
I know. Something about England, which is, I don't know, it's unfortunate, but that's why England gets attacked so early on, so frequently.
Yeah, it's funny that Austria and Russia don't think the same way about Turkey.
Right. Well, sometimes they do, but it's less, I think it's less of a, I don't know. It's hard to generalize, but...
All right, so that was the fall, though, and then we had the build phase, and you made anti-English builds.
Well, I mean, right, and I didn't want, France was pushing me to build 2 fleets here. I said, are you building 2 fleets? And he said, nope, I don't want to piss off Italy. And I said, exactly, I don't want to piss off Russia. So I'll build a fleet and an army and stick to that. Cover my bases.
Well, that reminds me, I should ask you, like, looking back in time, was that bounce in the channel arranged between England and France, do you know?
Oh, I still don't know.
Oh, okay, right.
France told me that it wasn't. England told me that it was. I think I'm inclined to believe France here, but I actually don't know.
It would be rather strange to have an arranged bounce in the channel. I don't usually think of that as part of orthodox diplomatic play.
No, but I mean, yeah, aside from gunboat. I guess you see it, but yeah, so I don't know. What confused me about that was the fact that France said, I knew France was going to the channel because we had, again, talked about potentially doing some sort of sea lion. England, I asked them, do you think you'll go to the channel? Do you want to, maybe get some action going against France? And they said, no, I think I'm going to open north. I didn't tip them off. France asked me if I tipped them off. I didn't tip them off. So
it's interesting. What do you think England's thinking?
I don't know, because they said that it was a bounce. They said it was planned. But I honestly don't know what to make of that. Other than the fact that, England had reached out to me and said, hey, maybe we can work together. How do you want to handle Belgium and Holland? And I said, well, you can have Belgium, I'll be in Holland, and we'll go against France. Not necessarily meaning to commit to that. But, what are you going to say? So that's what I said. The Italian perspective.
Hello, how is your game going so far?
It is just a roller coaster. It is not your usual game of diplomacy.
Let me go to the shared screen, and you can point out how things ended up going in the fall, and tell me about what's happened since.
Yeah, so I thought Turkey was going to continue to gun for Russia, and turned out I was wrong about that. I know Russia still does not trust Turkey, does not care for them. So I think Austria moved on Venice with the hopes that they would get it, but then because I basically caught them in their lie, they had to save face, and so they said, destroy my fleet, and then I'll rebuild an army, and we'll all be okay. So that's what they ended up doing, and I think they're trying to salvage that relationship. So if you go to the winter then, so things got a little tense between me and Austria. Austria basically said, if you build an army in Rome, then we are going to be at war for the rest of the game. They're just going to suicide against me, which is, I think that's just dumb. But last second I decided, okay, fine, I'll do the fleet in Naples, because I checked with Turkey and Russia, and they were okay with it. I'm now in a group chat of Russia, Turkey, and me discussing how to destroy Austria. And basically, no one likes Austria.
The Russian perspective. When we last spoke, you had high hopes for fall of 1901, and I guess you can start off by telling me how you feel that went.
So, right after we finished talking the first time, I got a message from Austria, that said, "I will support Bulgaria to Romania." And then I said, well, I don't think that message was intended for me. So I replied something like, "Okay, thanks." And then instead of moving Ukraine to Romania, I decided to support myself into Galicia because that was more of a sure thing, and I thought Turkey was ready to stab me. That turned out not to be true as far as Turkey's actually stabbing me, but it didn't cost me that much. Maybe one build, but I think I'll eventually get Romania.
You can get into Sweden, so.
Yeah, and I got Sweden because Germany decided not to bounce me. Yeah, so Germany, despite my my undiplomatic overtures, decided to befriend me and let me into Sweden. So I'd say it went pretty well. I mean, no one else took Romania. I made an advance as far as the board was concerned, in the south, that is.
Yeah, I do see that, and clearly you're getting ready to take some action against Austria.
And Turkey kept his word and moved out of Armenia, so that was nice.
That's probably pretty important for any future prospect of friendship there. Winter 1901. It appears that moving to Norway has had some... moving an army to Norway perhaps has had some negative consequences for England.
Yeah, in terms of my Northern Fleet build, that was also based on negotiations with Germany. I mean, Germany said that if I built a Northern Fleet, he would support me into Norway. I don't know. I guess I was the one who made the suggestion, and he said that he would not support me into Norway, but support me against England in general, make some moves against England. I have to support myself into Norway. And meanwhile, I messaged England after the build phase, so I guess next turn, that the Northern Fleet build was meant to persuade him that if he helped Germany against me, that Germany would be the one to benefit because we'd get locked into a sea battle and Germany might take Warsaw. And he said, yeah, let's work together. Little did he know that I had persuaded Germany and France to work with me against England.
The English perspective.
For a fall in 1901, one crucial decision was before me, and that was whether I would convoy my army to Norway or to leave it in the British Isles. I decided to convoy the army. That way it gives me a little bit more flexibility in Scandinavia. That made it so that I would still retain the North Sea. The North Sea is a vital territory for maneuvering, for menacing either France or Germany, depending on who turns against me. I made sure to make sure things were okay with Russia, that I did that, getting them assurances that I wouldn't attack St. Petersburg. Additionally, during spring and fall of 1901, I was messaging not only my closest neighbors and vital allies at this point, France and Germany, but also Italy, Turkey, and Russia, making sure that we could share intel and shoring up our friendship for later in the game. For spring 1902, I'm feeling pretty good. I have good relations with Russia, with France, after we've agreed on England, English Channel as a DMZ, and with Germany. I do worry a little bit that me having a fleet in the North Sea will be threatening to Germany and will want to turn against me in some way. I do have a choice of where do I want to pick up my next units or my next supply centers. I could very well go to war against Germany, but that seems exhausting. There's just so many supports that can be offered, and it's really not a great person to make mad. The most obvious thing is to get Russia, or at least to Scandinavia, anger them. And, I'm thinking moving that fleet from Edinburgh up to the Norwegian Sea and putting some pressure on St. Petersburg. So that's something that I've been thinking about. I think my alliance with France is good. I don't think they'll backstab me, but they have said that, Italy doesn't want them coming down south. So that's something to think about. But yeah, I guess at this point maybe I couldn't do a ton about it. I've already kind of made that move to trust them. This is why I don't like playing England. You have to decide very quickly that you're gonna trust two and not trust one. And I'm having difficulty with that. Yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out.
The Turkish perspective.
1902, in the spring, since I'd been working well with Russia, Russia offered for me to be able to move into the Black Sea, which allowed them to capture Romania on their own. So my orders were relatively simple for spring. The one thing that I really tried to organize was a move from Italy, Fleet Tunis, to Western Mediterranean, which I think would have helped to slow France down a bit. That ended up not happening, and France made a large move on England at the same time that Germany did, which is quite worrying because England did not defend in any appreciable way and is now in a very bad position, meaning that France may start growing quite large in the next few turns. The other thing that I tried to negotiate, Austria had offered some sort of attack Germany plan. I figured it was probably a ploy from the beginning, and Austria had no intent to do those moves, but they seemed fairly enthusiastic, and so I made sure that both Russia and I's orders were such that we would be able to capitalize on Austria moving east or westward if they ended up deciding to do that. They did not, which likely made sense, but it helped to solidify that Austria wasn't a country I really wanted to work with because they seemed to be kind of a habitual liar, and I could never really get any truth out of them. Anyways, so that was the spring, and now talking about the fall, this was a bit more of an interesting negotiation because now France was growing very large, and I'm not particularly interested in seeing France continue to grow quickly, and so instead of taking Greece for myself, which I had planned to do, instead I am supporting Apulia to Greece from Italy's army in exchange for them moving to Western Mediterranean Sea this turn and starting an attack on France in the spring, which I think is very important because if France is stuck in the Mediterranean, has no way of getting Tunis, then there's no way that France can solo reasonably, and in addition, that'll likely get both Italy and France stuck in a war with one another where they have 2 to 4 units each kind of on a front and no one can make progress, which could be very helpful for me in the longer term because then maybe I can end up making it into the Ionian Sea, either agreed upon with Italy or not, and then start to capture Italy, and them being committed so far westward would make it really easy for me to continue expanding. So that's kind of why I figured I'd support them into Greece for now, because later I can easily take back Greece, and that can create some goodwill around the board that I'm a generous player that's willing to give up a supply center that would traditionally be mine to someone else in exchange for some promises of theirs. So that's kind of my hope for the future, because Russia letting me into the Black Sea as well is kind of a dangerous position for Russia to be in, but if they can think that I'm this sort of generous player, they'll be more comfortable with that moving forward, they'll be more trustworthy, and that could maybe end up allowing me to devise a backstab of Russia at some point, which would certainly be necessary for me to continue doing well. Let's see, other interesting notes on this and last turn. I guess another interesting thing that I talked about last time was as Turkey trying to negotiate a Western Triple Alliance between the three, England, Germany, and France, and that clearly didn't happen, which is a bit disappointing, though. I didn't have too many expectations because I didn't want to try to push that point too hard. I didn't want to look like I was meddling. It seemed like Germany and France kind of convinced England they're doing that, but then instead moved to attack England, which should work out for France. I don't think so much so about Germany. I tried to convince Germany to help England this turn, but they did not seem willing to do that, which I think is really disappointing, because what's going to end up happening, as I see it, is France is going to get Liverpool, London, and Edinburgh, all of the supply centers on the English island, whereas Germany maybe at best gets Sweden or Norway, but those aren't even English anymore, those are Russian, and Germany is currently some sort of friendly or ally with Russia, it seems, so that would have to be some sort of stab. It's a bit disappointing to see from the Germans' perspective that they're going to let France get something like 3 centers in the next the fall and then probably spring and fall of 1903, because they're going to get very large, and it could make it really easy for France to conquer Germany, unless France is maybe a player who's really nice and just decides out of goodwill to help out Germany, which I would find a bit disappointing for its own reasons, because I don't think Germany would deserve that sort of treatment from France. France could easily conquer Germany at that point, so there's no point in giving them sort of handout centers, and that would be also probably make it more difficult for me to get Italy and France entrenched in this fleet and army war in the southwestern Mediterranean. We'll see what happens, but I don't think France is that sort of player. I think France is the player that's going to take advantage of Germany in this situation, get all of England, and then just keep going. So yeah, hoping to incite a war in the south would be very helpful in that regard, because then I just have free reign to keep growing, take Serbia at least next year, and then start to negotiate, oh, hey, Italy, do you really need Germany at this point? Do you really need Trieste? Hey, Russia, do you really need Romania? You now got Norway. You're going to start attacking Germany. Maybe if I can get Romania, that would be helpful. Stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear what my expectations for the fall are from this. France attacks England. England tries to defend, but their army is currently stuck in Finland, so there's very little possibility of them getting that army back onto their island, so their defense options are very limited. Germany continuing to try to attack England, even though I don't think that makes any sense. Russia attacking Austria, Italy attacking Austria with my help, and moving a little bit on France, and myself mostly just sitting there defending and helping out. The thing is, as Turkey, I don't need too much stuff to defend. I have a fleet in the Black Sea, I have a fleet in the Aegean, so my defensive capabilities are very strong. Even if somehow Italy and Russia decided to team up against me, it would take them a very long time to attack me. I think long enough that France and Germany would start to attack them, and so I would be safe to kind of stick around for a long time. And at that point, my goal would just be to make it into some sort of draw. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully I can, with my sort of demonstrations of generosity, encourage them to turn to other fronts rather than attacking me, who to them might seem more of a nice guy.
The German perspective. All right, let's go to the spring and see if what we find interesting here. Right now, it just looks like England actually appears to be following through on what he said to you about opening north, and you are following through on what you said to France about going after England.
Yeah. No surprises here, really, in terms of the West.
Anything else surprise you?
There was a central triple thread that I had talked to both Italy and Austria individually. This is actually probably more exciting than the stuff that's happening in the West. Talked to both Italy and Austria individually. They both said, nice. I said, hey, how do you guys feel about a central triple? They both said, we feel good about that. So I started a three-way thread just to sort of open that up. They were both like, this seems great. And then, as you might recall, Austria opened to Venice in the spring of 1901, catching me and Italy off guard. And he was like, no, this is standard. I'll blow it up and I'll blow that fleet up and turn it into an army, which I guess works if Austria distrusts Italy. But as a central triple, I don't think that opening really gets you anywhere because it just loses you tempo. And if Austria trusts Italy enough to go for Greece, they can have 4 armies and a fleet, right, as opposed to just 4 armies. So that just threw sort of the whole thing off from the beginning. And so now the question is, what is happening with Austria, right? Are Italy and I going to turn on Austria, which Russia and Turkey really want, or do we try to maintain something with Austria to head off the juggernaut, which seems to be forming?
Interesting. And so what did you and Italy decide, would you say?
Well, so you'll notice that I moved to Munich to Bohemia based on faulty information that Austria was going to move to Bohemia, right? I was told that Austria was going to move to Bohemia. Didn't turn out to be true, but not sorry that I moved there, since I trust France at this point. We've sort of agreed Burgundy and Ruhr are sort of demilitarized. So I'm in Bohemia now, and I think it's curtains for Austria unless something dramatic happens.
Interesting. So you're planning to be a part of the downfall of Austria then?
Right now, I think so. I mean, I don't know what choice I really have if Italy, Russia, and Turkey all are trying to kill off Austria single-handedly. I'm not going to necessarily get in the way of that. I'm going to get my dot if I can. I've been promised Vienna, so we'll see if that pans out.
I think that's I think that's going to be interesting. I mean, do you so that I assume that means you see Italy turning on Austria pretty soon.
I think it's imminent here.
All right, and I think the downfall of England is also probably imminent.
That is more assured. That seems pretty assured. 3-on-1. I mean, they're both 3-on-1, as far as I can tell. It's interesting what will happen in terms of will England, whether Skagerrak is going to go into Norway with support from Norwegian, or what's going to happen here, whether he'll try for Sweden, Russia asked for me to tap Skagerrak, but I'm not going to. I'm going to try to get myself into North, which I think should be doable because Yorkshire has to cover either London or Liverpool, and presumably Norwegian and Skagerrak both have to try to get back Norway.
Well, you said Yorkshire has to cover either London or Liverpool.
Oh, it can't cover Liverpool. You're right.
Right, exactly. I was just
You're
thinking,
right.
it's not fleet, but yeah.
So I mean, presumably it'll cover London.
Yeah, but losing Liverpool, England's he's in a fair bit of trouble. I don't see how you could get out of this, really.
Right. No, exactly. And I feel bad for him because I've been England in this situation, and it's never fun. I don't know what you can do other than be extraordinarily good at diplomacy.
Yeah, I've been in England. I've been in England, but I don't think I've ever been in quite this situation, except in a game I took over a surrendered power. Usually if I play as England, my three neighbors don't get their act together to this degree to all join forces against me.
I mean, it usually doesn't work out this well for all three.
Right.
Sometimes it'll work out well for Germany and France, but Russia will be screwing it up somewhere else, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this Russia doesn't really seem to have problems in the south.
Right. And speaking of which, do you feel concerned about Russia? Because I see Russia doing well here against England, doing well here potentially against Austria. Do you have concerns that with potentially his major obstacles eliminated, that Russia might next decide to try and come after you?
I think that would be a reasonable fear. Remember before when I was like, I feel good but a little bit nervous?
Yes.
That's a little bit nervous part, is that I see a strong Russia. I see a compliant Turkey, though. Turkey's black in the Black Sea. We'll see, right? Is it going to be an IT? Is it going to be an RT? Is it going to be an IRT?
It is interesting, isn't it?
The possibilities are endless, right?
Yeah.
Is it FG versus IRT? I mean, maybe. Is it FIG versus RT?
Sounds delicious.
Right. That's practically a Fig Newton.
Something like that, yeah. Well, is there anything else of interest that you see coming that you want to discuss on this map?
Sure. I mean, I can tell you what I'm expecting to happen this turn, which is that I've been asked, instead of just trying to go for Vienna, I'm supposed to be supporting Russia into Galicia from Bohemia. And then I've been promised Vienna I guess it's next year because we're now in the fall.
Yeah.
I'm expecting to get north. It'll be interesting to see, assuming Picardy convoys to Liverpool, but maybe that'll be a fleet attack. I don't know. Will England regain Norway? What will happen? Who knows?
It's a mysterious mystery.
I'm sure you know more than I, but still.
I'm sure I don't. It's all mysterious to me.
You see all of our press. You see it all. You're like a god to us.
I have not been reading anyone's press, but I do see all of the orders. But I also don't usually read those. I like being surprised as much as anybody, and this is an interesting game.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's definitely an interesting group of players, very responsive. So kudos to everybody for making sure it's not boring. I don't think anybody on here is feeling like it's necessarily boring. Some people are not happy, that's for sure, but I don't think anybody can claim about a boring game.
That's the unfortunate thing about diplomacy, is that you rarely have a game in which everyone feels happy about how it goes.
We don't play this game to be happy. I mean, if you wanted to be happy, you would play something else.
We play this game to make ourselves miserable?
I mean, sort of, yes.
The Italian perspective.
So what we saw in the spring was me feigning, okay, I'm going to be friends with Austria and just get intel on moves. Oh, so that was the deal in the winter. I said, I'll build a fleet in Naples only if you tell me your exact moves, Austria, and then do them. So Austria gave me real moves. I gave those to Russia and Turkey. Turkey was not supposed to move Bulgaria to Serbia. They were supposed to move. They were supposed to let Austria into Greece and Serbia so that I could just walk into Trieste. So I don't know how much of that is Turkey screwing me over, how much of that Turkey just forgot and made a mistake. I'm not sure. The surprise move was Germany's Munich to Bohemia. At that point, the central triple three-way has just died. And Austria reached out to me saying, okay, I can't trust the Germans, and I know they're at war with the Russians, and I know they're at war with the Turks, so Austria really has no friends. And now I've invited to a four-way chat, this time including Germany, about how to destroy Austria and how to coordinate all of our moves so that we can knock out Austria as quickly and as painlessly as possible, and we don't accidentally bounce.
So that was really interesting.
I am still afraid of an Austria-Turkey. We'll see. So Turkey's been really interesting. Turkey was telling France, Turkey told me that France said they were moving from Mao to West. And I just asked France straight up, and that made France worried about it, and they were like, no, I'm not going to do that. Russia as well was involved in this conversation, and so we did kind of a ops test for veracity, if they're true or not, if they're accurate, if they're telling the truth. That's the word I'm looking for. And so Germany and Russia and I figured out that Turkey was just spewing fake intelligence, fake orders, which does not bode well for trust. And so I did not move into West like they wanted me to. So now this turn for fall, they're telling me, hey, move on France because France is going to get too big. I need you to move against them. And if you do, I will support you into Greece. So they are promising to convoy my army into Greece, even though they would not get a build. And I know that they lied to me last year. So I am not inclined to believe them.
A little sketchy?
What's that?
You said it seems a little sketchy to you?
Yeah. And so I've told Austria that I'm going to support them in Greece. And I've told Turkey, okay, I'm going to convoy to Greece. I believe you. And I haven't told Russia or Germany exactly what I'm going to do for everything. But I think what my plan is I'm going to move Venice to Trieste, and I'm going to convoy Apulia to Albania. Because I don't trust anybody. And once I have an army in Albania, I can take Trieste or Greece on my own. So far, I'm on good terms with the French. I have no reason to move against them. I will let them mess around with England. I can't move on France right now. I think that would be foolhardy when I have literally not secured anything for myself.
The East does look very unsettled over there, I have to admit.
I'm going to get rid of the cat. Yeah, it's been interesting. Russia and Germany seem like pretty straightforward, honest players, and I can work with them. I do not like the Austrians, and I do not have confidence in the Turks. England, I have no read on, and the French seem pretty straightforward. I can work with them. And I know I'm not in a good position. And Italy is just a slow build power. I hate playing Italy. It's my least favorite, for the record.
Italy is my least favorite power to play, too. Although I'm a little weird, my favorite is Austria.
I am growing to love Austria, actually. I've been playing them a lot recently, and I really enjoy playing Austria.
Well, what are you? What else are you foreseeing happening in the next season here?
I could see Austria lying to me again. I could see Austria-Turkey teaming up. I think Russia and Germany are being honest. We worked out a deal that Germany is going to support Russia into Galatia, and I'm going to move into Trieste, and then in fall we're going to get Germany into Vienna. I think that part is going to hold true, but I have no idea what Austria is going to do with Trieste. I mean, I want them to move it to Serbia or Vienna so that I can walk into Trieste, but I have no idea.
Well, does Austria have any reason to be worried about you?
I mean, the fact that I was very upset with them when they took Venice, and that I fought them on building the army in Rome. I mean, I don't think they would trust me, but at this point, I think I'm the last one they're actually still talking to. Germany says Austria doesn't talk to them. I know they're not talking with Russia, and I don't think they're talking with Turkey.
Well, that's unfortunate.
I think because I told Austria like, hey, reach out to Turkey, see if they'll support you into Romania or something, and Turkey like later responded, still haven't heard a word from Austria. So,
Well, you know, I don't know whether Austria is or is not communicating with anyone, but I will say when you stop talking to people, I think that's when you really begin to lose.
I think Austria is going to lose. They've managed to make a lot of enemies. They have a very abrasive personality in the press, and that has not gone over well. So they're smart, I'll give them that, but they are struggling to pick up on cues from other players and like compromise and concede, and so I think you're going to see all four of us just destroy Austria.
Interesting. What do you see as the next steps for you after that?
I mean, if we knock out Austria, I'll probably move on Turkey. Because they're the least trustworthy after them.
And
so.
How do you foresee that going? Do you expect help from Russia or anything?
I think Russia would help me with that. And that'll depend how quickly England goes down. If Germany will attack me, Germany will attack France or Russia, and I don't know which way Germany is going to go. So when we get to the mid-game, where England and Austria are eliminated, I could be next. I have no idea exactly how it's going to go down. This is a really difficult game. And I hate playing Italy, so there's that. So.
I should ask, is there anything that would change your mind about destroying Austria?
What would change my mind from going all in on Austria? Germany would have to attack me. Yeah, Germany or France would have to attack me.
Well, those sound. Sounds like a difficult hurdle.
Yeah, and I don't see France doing it. I mean, and Germany could move into Tyre, but I don't think they would since they've kind of already committed against Austria. I'm expecting Turkey to hit me here in fall or spring. Like, I know that's coming.
Interesting.
Yeah. When it comes, I'll just end up throwing up my 2 fleets in Ionia and holding, and at that point I'll see what I can do to convince the Russians and Germans to go in on them. And there's how much I can do after that.
The Russian perspective.
So the three of us start talking. In fact, Germany did the same thing that Austria did. Germany sent me a message that said, whether you go north, take on England, or west to take on, this was during the build phase that he sent this message, or west to take on France, I'll follow you. And I said, well, I don't think Germany meant to send this message to me. And I responded something like, okay, sounds good, let's go for France. And then Germany sent me another message, and he said, I guess I thought you were England when I sent you that message.
Huh.
So he caught on to his mistake before it was too late. And he said, I don't think I revealed anything too much, just that I'm relatively neutral at this point. And then I told France about it, and France said, that is interesting. And then I just said, well, if we could all just attack England, and, he'd probably be on board. And I think France said, yeah. So I messaged with all three of us together, and we decided to do what you see here and port myself into Norway, thinking that England will support Norway from the north, and that Denmark cutting the support will be necessary. That turns out not to be true, but it does block England from getting back into the north after he moves that fleet. Not a good turn for England. And meanwhile, I'm supporting myself into Romania. I told Turkey he could take the Black Sea. I felt like I trusted him enough at this point, I guess. Sort of, kind of. Then Austria gets Galicia back because I don't have... Well, so Turkey was suggesting that I take Romania with a fleet instead of the army from Ukraine, so that in his justifications, so that I can hold on to Galicia. I suggest that I don't want to do this because I didn't want to leave myself vulnerable to him, which I didn't. So I don't do that, and he knows I'm not going to do that. And but I also let him into the Black Sea. So I take it with Ukraine instead. and that was all known to him. And then he bounces Austria out of Serbia, but Austria takes Greece.
Were you expecting Turkey to bounce Austria out of Serbia?
Yes, that I knew was going to happen, but so I'm actually having a better diplomatic relationship with Italy at this point, and Italy told me he wasn't happy about that because he wanted to walk into Trieste. He didn't try to go for Trieste this turn, but he wanted it to be open for the
I guess I get that.
taking. I mean, he was already stabbed by Austria in spring 1901, so it's not a good way to make friends.
I suppose not.
So Italy and I have a good diplomatic rapport, and in fact, he's the player I'd say I have the best diplomatic rapport with at this point, and maybe after him, France. And then this happened. So that's about all I have to say about that.
So
I guess the idea here was that Turkey would be cutting support if Austria tried to support himself into Romania.
I see.
Yeah.
And what do you foresee diplomatically happening with you, Italy, and Turkey, being that you're all in this little region together, and it seems like you've all agreed to take Austria out?
Oh, I forgot to get into this this other little discussion. There was a lot of discussion. So Turkey was persuading Austria, or Austria actually reached out to Russia, and which would be me, and Turkey, myself and Turkey, and said that he wanted to make a move on Germany and Italy through a three-way alliance. And he was saying, I'll move to Bohemia and Tyrolia, and I was sort of like playing along, but not really, with like Turkey wanting me to play along with the farce that we were going to go along with Austria. So I said, oh, like Turkey's like, aren't you going to say anything in like the three-way chat with Austria? Because he had said, oh yeah, let's do it. And he was really enthusiastic in the three-way chat. And I said, oh yeah, I'm easing into it so that he doesn't, catch on too easily. But then I messaged Austria and I said, by the way, Turkey's not being honest with you. Like, do you want to do something against Turkey? Austria seemed like receptive at first, but then he just went to radio silence. And so then I said, well, thought we were going to like make moves on Germany maybe, but now he's not responding. So I sent a message to Germany saying, I think Austria plans to move to Bohemia. And I did not think that he was going to do that anymore, because I had known that I had spilled the beans to Austria, so I wasn't going to move on Germany at this point, and he had gone to radio silence. So there was bad signs in terms of him keeping with that plan that he had cooked up with Turkey and me in the background. But I did not want Germany to make the following move, which was Munich to Silesia and Berlin to Prussia, which I saw as a distinct possibility for this turn.
Yeah, I definitely see how that could have been bad for you.
So I told him that Austria was going to move to Bohemia. He, by the way, had heard through the loop, or through the grapevine, that Turkey and I were cooking up this plan against Austria to convince him to move his units in such a way that we could take him out quickly. And so I told Germany that was still a thing, and he should move to Bohemia, and he did. And so he didn't move to Silesia or Prussia. So that was good for me. And it was good for me also because he has a unit, challenging Austria. So Germany is helping me on two fronts at this point, both with England and Austria. So he's sort of tied to the alliance at this point.
I hope you liked this video and found it interesting and informative. If so, I hope you'll join the hundreds of other people now who have liked and subscribed, and I hope you'll check out more of my videos. Until next time, Florida Man out.